The HOA president had a mouth that ran faster than his truck engine, and it was bound to get him in trouble one day. I just never expected the trouble to come in the form of my 2,000-pound bull. When you live in the country, you learn one golden rule: don't mess with a rancher's livestock. Out here, cattle are family, livelihood, and pride, all rolled into one. But our HOA president, Frank, didn't understand that. He thought the world revolved around his rules, his clipboard, and his shiny pickup truck. He had no idea what he was messing with the day he laid on his horn at my bull. By the end of that afternoon, his truck was upside down in a ditch. My bull was standing proud. And the entire neighborhood was questioning why we ever let Frank have any power at all. I had lived outside of town for years, far from the nonsense of HOAs. My property was 40 acres of rolling pasture, fenced in, with a small lake and a barn I'd built myself. It was the perfect spot to raise cattle, horses, and a few stubborn goats that always managed to escape. Then came the subdivision. A developer bought up the land across from mine and filled it with big houses, fancy lawns, and people who thought living in the country meant buying cowboy boots at the mall. And with them came an HOA. Frank was the self-appointed king of that HOA, a retired salesman with too much time on his hands. He strutted around like a sheriff in an old western, but with none of the grit and all of the arrogance. His biggest target me. He didn't like that I didn't mow my fields every week. He didn't like that my cows mooed early in the morning. He didn't like the smell of manure drifting his way on the breeze. And most of all, he didn't like my bull Diesel. It wasn't just any bull. It was a massive coal-black Angus with a neck like a tree trunk and horns that curved like scythes. He was territorial, stubborn, and protective of his cows. But to me, Diesel was more than muscle and attitude. He was loyal. He followed me around like a dog, snorted hello whenever I came to the pasture, and even let my daughter feed him from her hand. Everyone in the area respected Diesel, everyone except Frank. It started with letters. Your bull is too close to the property line. Your livestock create unnecessary noise. Your fencing is unsightly and does not meet HOA guidelines. I laughed at the first few, thinking Frank would get bored. But he didn't. He called the county. He called animal control. Even tried to tell me I had to remove Diesel because dangerous animals weren't allowed within city limits. Except I wasn't in the city. My ranch was there long before his subdivision, and my land wasn't under HOA jurisdiction. That drove him mad. One hot July afternoon, I was working in the barn when I heard the sound of a truck horn blaring like a trumpet of war. Over and over, honk, honk, hunt. I rushed outside and saw Frank parked along the fence in his brand new, polished Tuamir F250, and there on the other side of the fence stood Diesel. Frank was leaning out his window, red-faced, screaming, "Get your beast out of the road. He's blocking the view." Diesel wasn't in the road. He was just standing at the fence line, chewing cud, swishing his tail, completely unbothered. But every honk was making him twitch. His ears pinned back, his muscles tightened. I knew that look Diesel was running out of patience. I shouted, "Frank, stop honking. You're spooking him." But Frank smirked and laid on the horn again. Was it Diesel bellowed a deep, rumbling roar that shook the ground, then charged? He hit the fence with his massive head, splintering a post. The second hit bent the rails. On the third, Diesel broke through. Frank didn't have time to react. Diesel lowered his head and slammed into the side of the truck with the force of a wrecking ball. The entire vehicle rocked. Frank screamed, dropped his coffee, and fumbled for the gear shift. But Diesel wasn't done. Circled, snorted, and rammed the truck again, this time lifting 2 wheels off the ground. Metal groaned, tires squealed. The shiny F250 teetered, then rolled backwards off the road into the drainage ditch. With one final shove, Diesel sent it onto its side like a toy car. Silence. Dust hung in the air. Diesel stood over the wreck triumphant, his breath steaming in the hot sun. Frank crawled out of the passenger side window, covered in mud, his fancy shirt ripped, stumbled, slipped, and landed in the ditchwater. My neighbors, drawn by the noise, were already gathering at the roadside. Phones came out, cameras flashed. HOA president, their fearless leader, dripping wet and humiliated, stared up at my bull, towering above him. The sheriff showed up 20 minutes later. By then, Frank was shouting about attempted murder by livestock. He demanded Diesel be arrested or put down immediately. The sheriff, who happened to be my cousin, looked at Diesel, looked at the wrecked truck, and then looked at Frank. He asked calmly, "Did you provoke the animal?" Frank sputtered, "I just honked a little." "Well, around here, that's like poking a bear with a stick." "Don't poke what you can't handle." The crowd burst out laughing. Someone yelled, "Diesel for HOA president." Of course, Frank wasn't about to let it go. He filed complaints, lawsuits, and insurance claims. He even tried to get the HOA to ban livestock within a 5-mile radius. The county tossed it all out. What he didn't expect was the video. One of the neighbors had filmed the tire incident, the honking, the fence breaking, the truck flipping, went viral online. Overnight, Diesel became an internet sensation. The bull who fights back? Frank's reputation? Ruined. Every time he went to an HOA meeting, people played bull sounds on their phones. Someone even left a toy cow on his porch with a note, "Don't honk." Frank eventually sold his house and moved away, too embarrassed to show his face. The HOA quieted down after that, and life on my ranch went back to normal. As for Diesel, he strutted around the pasture like a king. I swear he knew he'd won. And in a way he had, because out here respect isn't given, it's earned, and Diesel had earned every bit of it. This story is just the beginning. There is so much more ahead. Subscribe to the channel to join me on this journey.